Hi, I'm Lance Cottrell, Chief Scientist at Intrepid. When you're online, you're being monitored at all times, usually by many entities at once. Today, I'm going to talk about the ramifications of that universal surveillance for your online undercover operations. Browsers are the primary tool used by online operators. Unfortunately, they're designed to share a tremendous amount of information about you and your computer with every website you visit. And that's so they can customize your experience. But the problem is, it's not just those websites. Every website also allows many other third parties to track you at the same time. Now, there's a free tool for Firefox called Lightbeam that allows you to see exactly how bad that problem can be. So let's go to the computer for a moment while I show you how that works. All right, so here we have on the left the Lightbeam application, and you can see that right now we have no data about any websites. We're starting with a clean slate. And on the right is the browser that I'm going to go use to visit 4 different websites. So real quick, let's load up some tabs. First, CNN, then the Washington Post, next, Al Jazeera, and finally, dictionary.com. And now you can see all of the connections that each one of these tabs is making. And over time, it'll keep making new ones. But already, with just those 4 URLs, we visited well over 100 different websites. So let's poke around a little. Looking at some of those servers, I don't even know what most of these are. And I certainly don't have any knowledge of their management, interests, or trustworthiness. And additionally, we can see on the graph that many of those servers are used by all 4 services at once, allowing them to track me and correlate my activity across all of those sites. And in fact, many of these services are used by a large fraction of sites on the internet. So everywhere I go, those services are able to track me. Let's consider some of the information available to any of those servers. They can all see your computer's IP address and your network. They can scan your computer, they can get your computer's browser fingerprint or system fingerprint, and they can set trackers like cookies to track you across the entire web. Now, if any of these servers are operated by a hostile entity, either because the organization themselves is unfriendly, or they've been infiltrated or hacked by someone, they can see that information across every single website where they have presence. But it's a problem even for non-hostile organizations. When you're trying to be undercover, you often have social media accounts, and the social media companies are trying very hard to detect those fake accounts and aliases and remove them. Unfortunately, they're one of those organizations that have points of presence everywhere. Every single one of those like and share buttons that you see on almost every website is beaconing back to the Facebooks and the Twitters, allowing them to see where you're going, see your patterns of activity. Unfortunately, blocking these services just isn't going to work because it's very obvious when you block them. Any of the primary websites can see that they're not getting information from their third-party supporters, and the third-party websites know that they're being accessed, their loads coming from those primary sites because they're exchanging data. And so obviously you're trying to hide something. Even worse is sites like Facebook or Twitter, which can obviously see that when you go to their website, you haven't been anywhere else that they've seen, and that doesn't match anyone's behavior profile, clearly identifying you as an alias. So the only approach that works is to really perfect your OPSEC and tradecraft. The first step with that is how you manage your IP addresses. The key is to never use the same IP for multiple aliases. Each one of your identities needs to be attached to a different address. I've seen people say, what we'll do is never visit the same website from the same IP address with these 2 different aliases. But because some of these sites have their fingers into millions of different websites, it's almost certain they will see both of your aliases coming out and doing different things as different identities from the same source IP address. That clearly indicates something strange is going on and connects those 2 identities together. Now, you can use reusable IP addresses, shared IP addresses like public Wi-Fi or cell phone IP addresses. In that case, if you look like you're using one of those, the websites that are observing you are going to expect to see not 2 or 3 identities coming out of the IP address, but literally hundreds to thousands of identities. So it's important to make sure that if you're trying to look like you're using a shared IP space, that you really have a lot of entities actually sharing it. The second thing to keep track of is to ensure that your pattern of behavior is normal, which means not just visiting the websites that are the target of your operation. Normal people visit a great variety of different websites all the time. Even jihadists are not doing jihad all the time. They're going to be going out and playing video games and looking up soccer scores and participating in the rest of life, and so should you. Your alias will not look realistic if it's only ever going to that handful of websites. And that fact is very visible to all of those sites that have their fingers into millions of other websites. They can tell that you're only going to 3 websites and missing out on most of the rest of the top 1,000 most popular sites, which is just not going to look normal, and again, clearly expose you as an alias. Third, pay attention to the fingerprint that you're putting out there and make sure it's appropriate to your alias, because all of these websites can see it. So if you're trying to look like an ordinary soccer mom going to Pinterest, you need to make sure that your computer looks normal for that and the fingerprint that you have is consistent with that activity. But it can't be the same fingerprint all the time, because these websites can see you everywhere and can see all of your identities as they move around the internet. If you're using exactly the same system fingerprint, it'll be immediately detectable and they can be tied together. At the same time, they can't be wildly divergent either, or they'll be cover inconsistent. So again, if you're running a Kali Linux bootable CD with all of the privacy settings turned up to maximum, that looks really weird for the soccer mom. But using a Mac with Safari on a hacker website might also look pretty odd and not look like it fits in. But whatever you're doing, make sure that you have varied fingerprints for each one of the websites you're going to, while always staying within the bounds of normal fingerprint patterns. The ubiquitous monitoring of the web environment is something we can't deny or avoid. All we can do is adapt our processes to ensure that our operations are effective despite that universal monitoring. But if we lock down our operational security and make sure we are consistent in our behaviors and keep track of all the kinds of information that these third parties can see, it's still very possible to be effective in conducting online managed attribution operations. Thanks for watching this episode. I hope you found it useful and interesting, and if so, please like and subscribe, and then click the bell icon to be notified each time new content becomes available. We upload new episodes every other week, and we'd love to hear from you what topics you'd like to see us cover. Let me know in the comments. Till next time, ciao!